MBA Research and Curriculum Center is proud to present this video series on ethical principles, brought to you by the Daniels Fund Ethics Initiative. You can find timestamps, links, and more in the video description box below. Subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all of our content. This video will cover the sixth ethical principle of respect. First, let's explore our ethics dictionary. Respect is defined as regard or esteem, honoring the rights, freedoms, views, and property of others. Respect comes from the Latin root word respectus, which is the literal translation of the act of looking back. Let's look at some words that are alike and different. First are synonyms, or words that are very close in meaning. Some synonyms of respect are appreciation, honor, recognition, and deference. Next are antonyms, or words that are opposite in meaning. Some antonyms of respect are disdain, disregard, and ignorance. American baseball player Jackie Robinson said, "I'm not concerned with your liking or disliking me. All I ask is that you respect me as a human being." Building blocks are the traits that a person needs to have in order to act ethically. Each ethical principle has its own set of traits. What building blocks are associated with this principle? Respect's first building block is open-mindedness. Open-mindedness means the ability to consider different views, perceptions, and ways of thinking. You might hear someone say, "I'm a real free thinker," meaning they form their opinions independently and base them on reason rather than their own preconceptions. Let's look at an example. Your friend Taylor has recently gone vegan after being a meat eater for all the time you have known her. You can demonstrate open-mindedness by trying new restaurants and foods with her. A person who isn't open-minded might tease her or exclude her. Respect's second building block is compassion. Compassionate people have a deep awareness of others' needs and a desire to help meet those needs. You might hear someone say, "Let's show each other brotherly love," meaning they want people to act with kindness and understanding for each other. Let's look at an example. If you saw someone trip and fall, would you stop to help them or continue walking past them? What if you saw someone pushing a stroller? Would you pause to hold the door for them? When you take time to help others, you're being compassionate. How do the building blocks of respect work together? Can you have one without the other? When you lack an open mind and compassion, disrespect can quickly turn into cruelty. Let's look at an example. Do you remember the quote from baseball player Jackie Robinson earlier? He was the first African-American man to play Major League Baseball with white men. Jackie Robinson had a good reason for wanting to be treated with respect. Many white baseball fans were not open-minded enough to accept that baseball was integrating. Not only were these fans not open-minded, they also lacked the compassion to treat him with respect. Jackie Robinson was taunted while on the field, targeted by opposing teams, and even received hate mail and death threats. The closed-minded fans who didn't accept having a black player on the team were wrong, but the fans and players who lacked compassion turned disrespect into harassment and outright cruelty. When you combine open-mindedness with compassion, you'll become a person who is caring, thoughtful, and humble. In other words, you'll be a respectful person. We can learn more about the consequences of behaving without ethical principles from events in the past and present. The following story is just one example.
You might take one every day, but you probably haven't thought about the layout of an elevator, unless you're a person with a disability. Chances are that you don't really think about any of the human-made physical structures you access each day. Architects and engineers refer to these things and spaces as the built world. It's a world that determines how we live and where we work. You might not have noticed, but much of that physical environment has quite literally been shaped by laws that protect the rights of people with disabilities.
Let's examine the timeline of events. Before the 20th century, people with disabilities were assumed to be abnormal and weak-minded. Many disabled people could not earn a living or participate in society. Institutions and asylums were created to house people with disabilities, and sometimes practiced sterilization or forced infertility on the residents. Between 1900 and 1960, the lives of people with disabilities changed for the better, thanks in part to veterans with disabilities from World War I and World War II. Advancements in prosthetics and rehabilitative treatment helped these veterans readjust to civilian life, while government programs made it easier for them to find jobs and live independently. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, was also recognized for the first time, although it was originally called shell shock. Although the lives of people with disabilities improved, many still saw disabilities as something that needed to be cured or fixed. In the 1960s, American disability advocates joined other minority rights groups to demand equal treatment, equal access, and equal opportunities for people with disabilities. They wanted to challenge negative stereotypes, create political change, and gain the ability to live and engage in society just like anyone else. Between 1970 and 1990, laws were passed that guaranteed rights for Americans with disabilities. This included the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, which gave children with disabilities equal access to public education. Although laws like this were extremely helpful, disability advocates wanted one law that would protect all the rights of Americans with disabilities. Finally, in 1990, President George H.W. Bush signed the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, into law. The ADA protects disabled Americans by prohibiting discrimination in employment, transportation, and other areas of life. The ADA's protections have been expanded multiple times to protect other types of disabilities, most recently in 2008 with the ADA Amendments Act. Although it took nearly a century, disability rights advocates were able to change the public's perceptions of people with disabilities so that they could begin to be treated with open-mindedness and compassion. Today, disability rights advocates continue to fight for equal treatment and access under the law. Why does this event illustrate the importance of respect? Let's take a second look. When you remain open-minded, you don't judge a person on their differences or how they live their life. When you act with compassion, you stand up when others are being mistreated or abused. Why do ethical principles matter in your life? Let's take a look at an example. We've looked at a lot of scenarios where people acted with or without ethical principles. Now, you'll get to decide what to do in an ethical dilemma. Pay attention to the following scenario and think about how you would respond. Your older cousin Miles has been one of your closest friends for years, and you spend a lot of time together. You're graduating this year, and you want to host a big graduation party for all of your family and friends in June. You'd want Miles to attend. However, Miles has autism and sometimes gets uncomfortable or stressed out when he's around crowds. When you tell him about the party plans, he says it sounds like fun, but that he should probably sit it out. In the real world, there are many ways you could respond to this problem. However, in this hypothetical scenario, you have 4 choices available to you. 1, you could tell Miles that he should come to the party anyways. 2, you could tell Miles that he needs to man up and face his fears by coming to the party. 3, you could ask Miles what you can do to make him feel comfortable attending the party. Or 4, you could ask Miles to hang out after the party has ended. Which choice would you make? Take some time to think about your answer. What choice did you decide to make? Let's explore some of the benefits and drawbacks of each choice. If you picked choice 1, you told Miles that he should go to the party anyway. This is an unethical choice. You aren't being open-minded or compassionate here. Remember that keeping an open mind is important when respecting others' differences. With this choice, you'd benefit from getting Miles to come to your party without needing to make any changes to the original plan. However, Miles would definitely be uncomfortable at the large party without you taking his suggestions into account. He also might distrust you in the future if he has a negative experience at the party. If you pick choice 2, you told Miles that he should man up and face his fears by coming to the party. This is the most unethical choice. Not only are you asking him to go somewhere where he feels uncomfortable, You are also being rude to him and ignoring his point of view. With this choice, you'd benefit from getting Miles to attend your party, although who knows how long he would stay for someone who treated him badly. However, you would really hurt your relationship with him if you told him he should just man up. That shows a complete disrespect of his way of thinking and his experiences. If you pick choice 3, you asked Miles what you could do to make him feel comfortable attending the party. This is the ethical choice. You use the building blocks of open-mindedness and compassion to make the right decision. With this choice, you'd benefit from getting Miles to attend your party. He would also know that you care about him since you asked him what you could do to make him feel comfortable, rather than asking him to adjust to your lifestyle. However, you'd need to make changes to your party, and Miles still might feel uncomfortable at it after you take his suggestions into account. He might need to take a break or leave early, but he will know that you went out of your way to have him there. If you pick choice 4, you asked Miles to hang out after the party ended. This choice isn't ethical, but it's not the worst decision you could have made. Remember, open-mindedness is just one part of being respectful. A compassionate person also thinks about what they can do for others. With this choice, you'd benefit from getting to hang out with Miles in a space where he feels comfortable. However, he wouldn't get to be there when you celebrated your graduation. And even though he'd enjoy hanging out with you, you could have done more to make him feel supported. Which choice did you make? Hopefully, seeing the benefits and drawbacks associated with your choice made it easier for you to visualize how ethical principles can impact your future. When you take time to consider any potential benefits and drawbacks, you will be better prepared to make ethical decisions in real life. Wondering how you can become a more ethical person? Here are some things to consider going forward. How can you act respectfully in your own life? Take a look at these examples. At school, respectful people are willing to listen and learn from others, and intervene when they see someone being harassed. At home, respectful people follow the golden rule and treat others as they themselves want to be treated. They also speak tactfully when they have a problem with a family member. While working or volunteering, respectful people avoid using offensive language and always treat others as individuals. It's important to take time for self-reflection. First, ask yourself, can you think of a time when you didn't respect others? What could you have done differently? Second, consider your environment. How can you inspire those around you to act respectfully? What would you do if they continued to disrespect others? Thank you for watching. We hope that you enjoyed this deep dive into ethical principles. This video was presented by MBA Research and Curriculum Center on behalf of the Daniels Fund Ethics Initiative. To learn more, please visit mbaresearch.org or click the link in the video description box below.